Hi, and welcome to the Kale Houser Leadership Secrets podcast. Today, I want to continue our talk on this little bit of series of Top Gun Disdain. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Kale Houser Leadership Secrets podcast. My name is Kale Houser, and I will be your host today. Surprise, surprise, surprise. Thank you so much for spending your time with me. I really appreciate it. I'm trusting that since you're here listening to this episode, that you're finding some value in it, and hopefully it's helping your business quite a bit in a practical sense, in a tactical sense, not so much just the overarching theory of leadership, because that is certainly the goal, is to see how some of these leadership principles and leadership theories can practically be applied to your business, to be applied with your teams and your employees, to figure out how to create just a massive movement in your organization. So this is a little unintended continuation of yesterday's podcast where I talked about Top Gun attitude, right? So hopefully you've had a chance to listen to that. If not, definitely give it a listen. If you're not aware, when I'm filming this, the Top Gun Maverick sequel to Top Gun came out, whatever it is, 30 some odd years later. It's a phenomenal movie. I'll give it my official plug for it again. Go see it in the big screen. Don't wait for it to come out so you can see it on your 65-inch TV at home or wherever you watch, or on your laptop, but go see it in the big screen. It'll be well worth it. It's just good old fun, fly by the seat of your pants, jet fighting, shooting around, and a pretty good plot line as well. So yeah, like I said, this is an unintended continuation because actually my wife and I went and saw the movie for a second time last night. And as I was going through it, and of course, certainly as with anything, whether it be you read a book a second time, listen to a podcast a second time, or see a movie or watch a show or anything of that nature, do a training, do a class a second or third or fourth time, you pick up different things. And this certainly happened to me last night. And so as a recap, one of the things I picked up originally, and this was from the preview, and then it certainly was solidified in the movie itself, was about the Top Gun graduates as they're being put together for the team of basically, we're the best of the best. Who are they going to get to teach us, right? We know everything, and we're the best of the best, and we can't learn anything else, right? So whole podcast about that. Make sure you listen to it, episode 167 from yesterday. But today I was going through, and again, the premise of this, 30 years later, Maverick, Tom Cruise's character, Pete Mitchell, is still in the Navy, but, of course, I'm sure that you're aware, whether you're a military person or not, if you've been in the military for 30 years, you're probably pretty high in rank, right? You're probably, in the Navy's case, an admiral or a general, something of that nature, certainly high level ranking. But in this movie, he is a captain in the Navy. So a captain in the Navy is an 06, and in the other services, they're called a colonel. So you may be more familiar with one or the other, because a captain in the other service is an 03, which is a lower level officer. But anyway, so 06, full bird, colonel, captain in the Navy. These are the types of people, just to give you some background if you don't know, they're the ones that are in charge of aircraft carriers, right? The captains, they're the ones that are in charge of entire air wings. They're not insignificant. They are the one step below getting a star, where you have to be approved by Congress and all those types of things, like a whole different level of playing field on the military. But nothing to shake a stick at by any stretch. I think the last statistics I heard, it was something like 3% of the force gets to that level, somewhere in that range, right? So it's pretty legitimate. But there was, I want to say, at least 3 times throughout the movie, as Captain Mitchell, as Maverick is interacting with his superiors, these 1, 2, and 3-star generals, admirals in the Navy, they refer to him as Captain. And it's not that they call him captains, because that's certainly appropriate. I was called Major Houser, Captain Houser, Lieutenant Houser, all those different things. You add that title and that rank in the military. That's absolutely appropriate. But it wasn't the fact that they were using his rank. They were using it in a sense of, as you can guess it, of disdain, of contempt, like Captain Mitchell or Captain Mitchell, right? As it was used as a way, and certainly, right, disclaimer, this is a movie. It's meant for entertainment. There has to be injected drama and all those types of things. But this is real. This happens all the time, especially in business, and it absolutely happens in the military. But in business, this happens. Anytime somebody is of high rank and they have people that are quote unquote below them or report underneath them or have less responsibility than them, there's an opportunity to treat that person with disdain or contempt. And it's not so much because of they lack the skill or they lack any sort of ability to do that job. In this case, it was purely a lack of, you've been in for 30 years. You should be an admiral. You should at least be a 2-star or a 3-star admiral. And, certainly something is wrong that you're not, right? Like what happened that you're not this 2 or 3-star? And repeatedly, and this isn't too much of a spoiler for the movie, repeatedly he basically, Maverick basically says, well, I'm where I belong. Like this is what he wants to do because guess what? Admirals aren't flying around fighter jets. They're not doing, tests and things of cutting edge technology and all those types of things. Their responsibilities move into an entirely different realm from what they were as younger ranks. And obviously, as part of the movie, Maverick recognizes this, that the second, if he ever got promoted to a 1-star admiral, or I think it's a rear admiral, right, in the Navy, he would lose his ability to go out and fly fighter jets, which is what he was born to do. It's what he is, right? It's a fighter pilot. But the take on it, and this is what I want to discuss a little bit, is, like I said, his rank or lack thereof. It's not that he had achieved captain 06. It was his lack of achieving higher 07, 8, 9, and 10. 10 is the highest in the military. That was the cause and the object of disdain and contempt that his superior officers, again, quote unquote, superior officers, higher ranking officers, used to kind of not necessarily put him in his place, but more remind him of, I have achieved these things and you have not. Okay. So there's 2 things I want to talk about with this kind of mentality, because I'm sure you've seen it in your workplace, whether it's a young person, maybe your first job was at a fast food restaurant or, whatever that case may be. There's millions of different types of first jobs, but there's always been somebody that has achieved their natural progression in that industry. Okay. Top salesman, CEO, things of that nature. And then there will always be people that are not interested in that. As a good really case in point, my good friend Aaron Riddell, in my interview with him in my podcast, he's CEO of Armor Solutions, and he does a lot of tech work and cybersecurity and things. And he said specifically in the tech field, a lot of them, right, generalization, a lot of them are more interested in becoming really good at their jobs and getting more certifications than they are in moving up in the management structure or, becoming that upper management type of level. And this would be an industry that would be really easy, similarities to the movie, to Top Gun movie, of, somebody moving up and they're now the vice president of development in this tech company. And, you've got this other guy or gal that's been there for 20 years, but they're like the best coder or the best programmer ever. And that's what they love doing. That's who they are. That's what really brings them joy in their life. And they don't want to move on because they know the second they take that promotion as a VP of whatever, despite their time and with the company, they'll lose that ability to just, do what they're really good at or what they really want to do in general in the tech field. So yeah, right. And thinking about this as you're referring to people and you use that disdain and that contempt, right? Does that inspire followership? Absolutely not, right? Does contempt inspire loyalty to your organization? Like, no, absolutely not. These generals that were using it, and again, disclaimer, drama, movie, entertainment, I get it. These generals that were using it were absolutely not inspiring any sort of loyalty or just being inspirational or motivation or anything of that nature. It was quite the opposite, actually. And it's one of those that you can envision if you remove the rank and you remove the potential for punishment, that it would be fighting words, right? You're basically kind of spitting in that person's face. But there's this concept that you have to understand is not everyone, if you are the one that is that higher authority, that higher rank, that higher position, you have to understand that not everyone is on your same path or wants your same things. Maybe for you that was awesome. You wanted to become that 3-star general in your company. But that doesn't mean everyone wants that. A lot of people have just very different plans. And this is part of what Kale Houser Leadership goes through, is helping you as the leader discover what those goals are for all your people. What makes them tick? What makes them desire? What would be a successful, again, quote unquote, career for that person? And how can you help them do that? And it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to become the VP of marketing or the COO or, anything of that, like top tier C-suite kind of stuff or upper management. But then the flip side of this coin is, so that's the first point is, how are you, if you're the one using these types of words, again, this is from the perspective of the 2-star general or the 3-star admiral, if you're using these to kind of needle people and really kind of, a slight underhanded insult to them, like you haven't achieved what I achieved, how is that serving your purpose for your organization, assuming you care about your organization at all, right? It doesn't. And then the second point I want to talk about is what message is that sending to people that are external to your organization? And in a business sense, this could be your competition, absolutely. Your customer, client base, absolutely. Other industries that do business with you as a business to business type of scenario that you're reliant on each other. Your vendors, right? So these types of things are seen by other people. They're seen by those that are around you and they interact. If they're seeing the leadership of that company treating those that are quote unquote lesser than them as lessers, or as the classic term, as the peasants of the organization, and kind of rubbing their face in it, despite maybe the what's the word I'm looking for? Despite the qualifications that say otherwise, outside of the time with the company, then that sends a message. And this reminds me a lot of, back in my MQ9 days at Canon, there was a squadron in particular that was it was supposedly and supposed to be kind of the special squadron, right? It was supposed to be kind of the upper tier. And it certainly went through a process where they kind of did an interview process and you had to apply to be in it and all these types of things. And I was in it, and it was really just dumb luck, not by I'll be the first to admit, not by my awesome skill or anything like that. It was just, I came in at a time where it was before they were weeding out the bad guys, and I hadn't been weeded out yet. But anyway, the point I'm making is they had this mentality, and it wasn't so much internal to themselves, it was external to everyone else, that if you weren't part of this squadron, even though, you had similar accolades, you're working similar shifts and, sacrificing all the same things that these people in the squadron were doing, you were seen as with this little bit of disdain and contempt to your contemporaries that were, same rank, all those types of things, just a different squadron. And that word started getting around, and as I became aware of it, because certainly as you're in it, you kind of don't get it, you don't understand it, it's just part of your culture, it's what you do. But as I got out of that culture and my eyes were starting to open to the community at large, certainly at our base, but absolutely at other bases, I discovered that squadron kind of developed a reputation of, pardon my French, of just kind of being dicks. A lot of the guy, and I'm not saying that everyone in it was, a bad person or arrogant or pricks or anything like that, but there were a few key personnel that were. And they're the ones, unfortunately, that externally helped develop that culture to where people, when they were either invited into the squadron when it came time to recruit and refill the ranks, or they had thought about their options of what was available to them, they said, nope, I'll pass. I don't want to be a part of that squadron because of the reputation, because of the how that squadron was treating other people, right? So naturally, how we treat other people is how we are viewed by other people. This should not be a surprise to you. And I want to give this as a real world example, that a squadron that had all the potential in the world, it had all the keys to be like truly great, and it was absolutely doing great things. But because of a certain type of culture had been allowed to develop in how they interacted with outside agencies, and this certain level of, I don't know if arrogance is the right word, but certain level of superiority and entitlement kind of came along with it. Not unlike the Top Gun graduates that we talked about in yesterday's episode of, disdain and contempt for other people, even though they were absolutely on the same playing field. And it affected their ability to recruit people into their organization, which we can have a whole talk about just that in and of itself. But something important just to be aware, how you treat people, you as the leader of your organization, how you treat people will be seen by those external to your organization, and word will get around. So if you're one of those that are really struggling to hire good people, right? I can't find any good people, quote unquote. This may be something you need to look at and self-reflect on. What kind of messaging are you putting out to the workforce at large of, do they even want to come work for your company because it has either a bad reputation or a really good reputation, right? One way or another, works for and against you. So that's kind of my wrap on Top Gun. Unless I decide to go see it again tonight, then I might have another episode for you tomorrow. But otherwise, thank you so much for joining me today. As always, please, a like, a share, a comment is phenomenal. I'd be happy to engage with you and answer any questions you have, or if you have specific topics or counter arguments, absolutely. I'm not so arrogant myself that I think I'm the only point of view. I'm happy to hear your experiences, and so we can all learn from them. All right, drop me a line at kalehouserleadership.com. I appreciate your time. No matter where you're at in the world, have a fantastic afternoon. Bye.